I went from broke to seven figures overnight, and the first thing I lost was everyone I trusted. What started as a lucky break turned into a nightmare of guilt, favors, and people lining up with their hands out. Friends, family, and even strangers suddenly saw me as an opportunity, not a person. The worst betrayal came from someone who knew me long before the money ever did. Hi, I'm Ethan, 29. And the day I checked my bank balance and saw 7 zeros, was the day I ruined my life. 1 year ago, I was broke, working 3 part-time jobs, and eating spaghetti 5 nights a week. Then, like some cosmic joke wrapped in a blessing, it all changed, fast. It started with crypto. Not in a, just bought Dogecoin, kind of way, but in a, I accidentally built a trading algorithm that beat the market, kind of way. I was bored, sleep-deprived, and half high on caffeine when I coded a bot using scraps of Python and a deep-seated hatred of poverty. I never meant to get rich. I meant to learn, experiment, maybe pay rent on time for once. But in 6 months, my little bot turned $600 into $1. 4 million. I checked the balance 10 times before it sank in. I didn't sleep for 48 hours, not because I was scared, because I was ecstatic. I called my mom. She thought I was joking. I told my best friend, Marcus, and he actually said, "Please don't die." I even wrote myself a stupid note on my bathroom mirror, "Don't be an idiot." I should have listened to that mirror. The thing about sudden wealth is, it doesn't just change your tax bracket. It changes how people look at you. Strangers started calling me, "Sir." My ex sent a 5-paragraph apology with a photo from her trip to Tulum. People who once ghosted me in job interviews asked if I needed a head of operations. At first, it felt incredible. I bought a condo. Not a mansion, I wasn't that reckless. But still, it had a wine fridge. I don't even drink wine. I paid off my parents' mortgage. I surprised Marcus with a Tesla. I tipped a waiter $500 just because he laughed at my joke. But here's what they don't tell you, money doesn't make you generous. It just gives your guilt a budget. Then came the opportunities. My cousin wanted to start a dog-walking empire, nationwide. My college roommate needed a loan, just until his art NFT sold. A girl I dated for 3 months in 2018 asked if I'd bankroll her eyelash salon. But the worst mistake. I said yes to nearly everyone. Because it felt like I had to. Because they knew where I came from, ramen nights, eviction notices, the year I couldn't afford winter boots. Saying no felt like betrayal. So I said yes. Again and again. Until one yes changed everything. The yes that broke everything came from someone I actually trusted. His name was Jonah. He was my second cousin on my dad's side, the one who used to give me his hand-me-down hoodies when I was 12 and too embarrassed to ask for new clothes. He'd show up to Thanksgiving with stories about stock options and fast cars, and I always figured he was a little full of it, but mostly harmless. After the windfall, Jonah reached out. Said he heard about my miracle money, and wanted to help me protect it. Said he had an in at a private fund, something ultra-liquid and discretionary. I didn't understand half the words, but he sounded confident, like someone who knew what it meant to build wealth, not just stumble into it. He told me I needed to think bigger. "Ethan, a millionaire's just a scared guy with a nice bank account. A billionaire builds an ecosystem." I laughed. He didn't. I should have run right then. Instead, I wired him $500,000. He said it was a short-term allocation, something about high-yield notes backed by real estate assets in Croatia. I nodded like I understood. I didn't. Meanwhile, the gifts kept piling up. I booked a private chef for my mom's birthday. Bought my little sister a cello that cost more than my first car. Flew Marcus and me to Iceland because we'd once talked about the northern lights during a blackout in our old apartment. But something weird started happening. I felt numb. It was like joy had an expiration date. The first time I walked into my condo, I felt like a king. The 15th time. It just looked like white walls and wasted space. I had money now, so why did I feel like I owed everyone more than ever? Then, one night, I checked in on that ultraliquid investment. Jonah ghosted me. Email bounced. Number disconnected. The LinkedIn profile disappeared like it had never existed. Gone. $500,000, gone. I stared at the screen like it might change its mind. I called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. He robbed me, I said. He didn't ask who. He just said, how bad? I told him. He was quiet for a second. Then he said, you need to lock everything down. Everyone. Everything. That's when I realized what I had really done. I hadn't just gotten lucky. I hadn't just become rich. I'd invited my past to rob my future. And now? Now it was open season. The fallout hit like a tidal wave in a slow-motion movie. First, I froze every account. Called the bank, flagged every transaction, changed every password. Then I sat in my stupid high-rise kitchen with its dumb, unused wine fridge and cried. Not a dramatic movie cry, the ugly, confused kind where you can't tell if you're angry, ashamed, or just tired. I called my mom. Told her what happened. She said, well, maybe don't trust people who use words like discretionary yield model, sweetheart. Helpful. I didn't hear from Jonah again, but I did start hearing from everyone else. Apparently word had gotten out. My aunt messaged me, hey honey, sorry to hear about that situation. Would now be a bad time to talk about Jason's college fund? Jason. Her dog. Then came the texts from people I hadn't spoken to since high school. I'm talking homeroom lab partners suddenly sending me 6-paragraph pitches for mobile apps, nonprofits, a cryptocurrency to end loneliness. One guy wanted to open a food truck that served ramen smoothies. I'm not joking. But what hurt most? Marcus. My best friend. He pulled me aside one night, real serious. Bro, I've been thinking. Maybe I could come on full-time, help you manage everything. Like a chief of sanity or something. I blinked. Like, a job. Yeah, like, paid. Not crazy. Just like 75, maybe 90K. Nothing compared to what you've got. I mean. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't a friend anymore. I was a vault. A lifeline. A target. Even the people who loved me, now wanted something from me. I turned him down. Gently. He nodded, smiled, said he understood. He moved out the next day. No argument. Just a silent suitcase roll and a, hey man, I'll text you. He didn't. I sat in my condo that night and tried to remember the last time someone asked me how I was without immediately pivoting to what I could do for them. Then my phone buzzed, a notification from an app one didn't recognize. Apparently someone had used my name to sign up for a luxury watch auction in Switzerland. I stared at it, laughed out loud. Then I opened my front door and screamed down the hallway. I'm not a bank. Someone across the hall yelled back, then stop buying dumb shoes. Fair. That night, I drafted a list. I titled it, People Who Knew Me Before the Money. There were 7 names. By morning, I had crossed out 5. The first thing I did was fire my accountant. Technically, he wasn't even fired, he ghosted me after I asked too many questions about discrepancies. I should have known something was off when he wore a Rolex to our third meeting and started referring to himself as my financial vibe manager. Next, I stopped answering DMs, turned off all social notifications. Changed my number. I even shut down the crypto bot, the one that started it all. Not because it wasn't working. It was. But because I knew if I let it keep growing, I'd never stop feeding the beast. And I needed to stop. Because I was becoming something I hated, a guy who measured love in transactions and loyalty in invoices. I started seeing a therapist. Her name was June, and she had exactly the energy I needed, calm, no nonsense, and zero interest in my money. First session, I told her, I made a stupid amount of money and then made even stupider decisions. She nodded once. Okay. And who taught you that love has to be earned by being useful? I blinked. She didn't smile. Just wrote something in her notebook and said, "That's what we'll work on." Meanwhile, the calls kept coming. Old coworkers. Former professors. A girl from a summer camp I barely remembered who said we once shared a s'more and that meant something. My parents? They tried to stay out of it. At first. Then my dad called one night and said, "Son, your mother and I were thinking maybe we could invest some of your money. Just a little. Like, a house in the Keys." A house. In the Keys. For retirement, he added, like that made it better. I said no. He didn't argue. Just sighed and said, "Don't forget who raised you." That stung more than I want to admit. I didn't forget. I just finally realized raising me didn't mean they owned a share of the IPO. Around that time, I did something no one expected. I took a job. Real job. Part-time. Volunteer pay. A non-profit tech literacy program for underprivileged teens. I taught Python in a community center that smelled like gym socks and hope. My favorite student was a 14-year-old named Zoe. She wore a hoodie that said, "Hack the system," and told me, flat out, "If you're here to save us, don't bother. But if you're here to teach, sit down." I sat down. And for 2 hours, no one cared how much money I had. Just how much code I could explain in plain English. It was the first time I'd felt human in months. That night, I walked home. No Uber. No driver. Just me, 2 legs, and a hoodie Zoe gave me that said, "I fixed your bug. You're welcome." I got home, opened my laptop, and wrote a new mirror note. Be a person. Not a wallet. I stuck it next to the old one. Then I made a spreadsheet titled, "What I Actually Want." Only 3 items on it. And for the first time since I hit 7 figures, I felt rich in a way that didn't make me want to throw up. It was a Thursday afternoon when the knock came. Not a metaphorical one. A real knock, at my door. I opened it expecting a delivery or maybe the building manager griping about my "no shoes inside" sign. Instead, Jonah. Standing there like a twisted ghost in designer sunglasses. "Ethan," he said, like he hadn't vanished with $500,000. I didn't move. He held up a paper coffee cup, sheepish grin. Thought I'd try the peace offering route. "I don't drink coffee," I said flatly. "You do now," he replied, and walked in like he owned the place. I didn't stop him. I should've. But some part of me wanted answers. He sat at the kitchen island like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't Houdini'd himself out of my life with enough of my money to buy a Tesla fleet. "Listen," he said, "I didn't technically steal anything. You technically disappeared." "Right, but it wasn't theft," he said, sipping the coffee he bought for himself. "It was bad timing." He launched into a story involving Eastern European banks, a frozen account in Malta, and a hacker named Dingo, who apparently tanked the whole thing. I just stared. "You lost the money," I said. "I mishandled the opportunity," he countered, like we were discussing spilled soup. And then, the kicker. "But I'm here to make it right." I laughed. I mean, actually laughed. Because what else do you do when the guy who gutted your trust fund thinks showing up is the same as fixing it? "You gonna write me a check?" I asked. "No," he said. "But I've got a new deal. This one's real. I just need a partner." I stood, walked to the door, and opened it wide. "Jonah," I said, "you don't need a partner. You need a mirror. And maybe prison." He blinked like that hadn't even occurred to him. Then he tried one last card. "You're really gonna throw away family like this?" I stared at him, this man who shared blood but none of my values. This man who saw my miracle moment as his lottery ticket. "Jonah," I said, calm and clear, "you're not family. You're a lesson. One I paid for already." He left. No dramatic threats. No final plea. Just a shrug and the sound of his Gucci loafers clicking down the hallway. The silence he left behind was better than a refund. I closed the door and turned off my phone. No calls. No texts. No more stories from the past trying to cash in on the man I was becoming. Instead, I pulled out my laptop and opened the spreadsheet titled What I Actually Want. I added a fourth item. Keep the door closed. 1 year to the day after I became a millionaire, I woke up in a much smaller apartment. Smaller on purpose. Gone were the penthouse windows and echoing rooms and $8,000 Italian couch no one ever sat on. This place. It had creaky floors, weird neighbors, and a kitchen where I could reach the stove and the fridge at the same time. It also had something else. Peace. Not the Instagram kind with candles and a wellness hashtag, I mean the real kind. The kind that shows up quietly when you stop performing for people who never clapped for you in the first place. I made oatmeal. Watered my succulents. Put on the hoodie Zoe gave me, the I fixed your bug one, and walked to the community center. Class was already buzzing when I got there. Zoe was arguing with another kid about whether her chatbot should have SAS mode enabled by default. She saw me and rolled her eyes. Ethan, she said, tell Caleb he's wrong. I'd love to, I replied, but unfortunately, being wrong is a core part of coding. That got a groan and a laugh. And for a second, everything was simple. After class, I got lunch with Marcus. Yeah. Marcus. Turns out losing a friend hurts a lot more when you never tell them why. So I did. I reached out a few weeks ago. Apologized for shutting down, for thinking trust had to mean no. He said he was sorry for asking me to hire him like it was a shortcut to closeness. We're not back to how things were. We're better. More honest. Less blurred. We split the check. That night, I video called my parents. They answered on the second ring. My mom smiled like she always does when she sees me, half proud, half worried, fully herself. My dad said, "You look skinnier. You eating?" "Trying," I said. We talked about small things. The weather. My sister's dog. My dad's weird obsession with soup now that he's retired. No one mentioned houses in the Keys. No one mentioned money at all. And it was the best conversation we'd had in years. After we hung up, I pulled out the original mirror note, the one I'd written the night I hit it big. Don't be an idiot. I smiled. Then I crossed it out and wrote a new one underneath. Don't forget, you are not what you give away. These days, people still ask what it's like, going from broke to millionaire in 6 months. I tell them the truth. It's like giving a fire hose to someone who's been dying of thirst. At first, you think you'll never be dry again. But then you start drowning in it, in expectations, in manipulation, in your own panic to stay good. Money didn't ruin my life. I did that, by thinking money would fix me. It didn't. What fixed me? Saying no. Saying enough. Saying mine. Turns out, the richest I've ever felt was the day I spent $6 on coffee for Zoe after class and she said, "Thanks, bro," like it meant something. Like I meant something. Not because I had a black card. But because I showed up. That's the whole lesson, if there is one. You can buy everything, except the version of yourself that knows how to keep it. And that version? He's finally home.